Hello people of the internet, it's Amanda, and for today's video I'm here to talk about the 4th episode of F4 Thailand. Now I've been reviewing this series since the trailer to the first 3 episodes. Episode 1 and 2 I was genuinely pleased, and for episode 3 it was kind of shaky. I saw that a lot of people had mixed opinions about it. I'm a huge fan of F4 / the Hana Yori Dango franchise. I've seen the other versions. That's why in my reviews I usually compare it to the other versions, most specifically the Japanese version, simply because the pacing is very similar to this one. Now, what's interesting about episode 4 is I like it half and half, and I'll be talking more about that later on in the video. Basically, episode 4 is where the whole iconic date thing happened. So Ren is out of the picture temporarily, and so Thyme shoot his shot and finally got a date with Gorya. Now, for those who are already fans of this franchise, then you would know how iconic this scene is, considering that it's a turning point in terms of Gorya and Thyme's character, or basically the main female lead and the main male lead for this story finally got to see each other in a vulnerable state and finally got to like open up more to each other. And so that's why I was really looking forward to this particular episode. Now, what's interesting about what they did is, number one, there are references to Boys Over Flowers and Meteor Garden for this one. With the Ferris wheel, I thought that we stuck in that, but they didn't, and that's, I think, a nod to the Boys Over Flowers version of Korea. And then the fire exit scene where they got stuck, which is very similar to what happened in Meteor Garden. But what I didn't like what I like about the date part is that they actually got to go on a date before things got a little messy. They got stuck, and then Thyme got sick and everything like that. So they actually got to enjoy themselves and show a more playful side to them, which didn't really happen in the other iterations of the drama. So I really like how they kind of like had fun and saw what it's like to just be casual with each other before things went south. But then what I didn't like about this entire sequence is when they were just starting to get to know each other, and I was getting really invested in the more emotional parts of the series, considering that the comedy is definitely one of the biggest charms of this drama so far. I wish that they could have just toned it down a bit when it came to the moments that they were like sharing things about each other, because I felt like some of the jokes or some of the punchlines that suddenly entered the dialogue felt a little bit, doesn't fit the atmosphere. There are some parts of the scoring that was also a little bit off to me, since it didn't really set the mood or the tone that this is an emotional moment and it is a pivotal moment for both of them to be sharing this entire thing. And I don't know, but yeah, I'm not exactly a huge fan of some of the parts of that. Like, I like how it has a touch of Hananoche as well. So if you don't know, that's the sequel to Hana Yori Dango. That is a completely different storyline. But there is a touch of Hananoche in a way that very similar to Kaguragi and Oto's character in that version. This one, instead of just focusing more on themselves, it also talks about the disparity between their social statuses and what that means for each of their family. So it kind of like puts them into like a bigger, it puts the things in a bigger perspective outside of just who they are as people. And I like how this drama is trying to set it apart from the other versions by putting that social commentary themes in it. Sometimes it just gets a little bit too much, but in most cases I feel like it kind of works in terms of how they're weaving it in the story so far. But yeah, I just feel like they could have, they could have fixed the mood a little bit with some music or anything like that. Could have toned it out with the jokes or anything, because yeah, I feel like that was a very important moment and it was delivered quite nicely. It's just that there were some moments when I wish that they could have lingered on with, with me feeling for these characters and feeling that they're actually forming this warm bond during that particular moment. Next is, so the whole dilemma is that after Gorya comes back, she finds out that her father took a loan and they had to like deal with this massive problem of, you know, money and stuff, which is a very similar theme to the other versions of the F4 slash Hana Yori Dango Boys Over Flower storyline. So it's quite typical, it's quite expected that it already happened while this entire arc is going on. What I didn't like was how they handled the entire bar thing. I feel like, again, this part of the female lead's life has always been a serious matter, a serious talking point, a serious arc in the other versions, because it talks about an actual situation in her life and how it differentiates her lifestyle from the lifestyle of the male lead, and why she became the character that she is, why she's strong, why she's this, why she's that. And it plays such a huge impact on how she handles certain situations that even if, you know, it's the whole idea of, even if I'm not from a rich family, my integrity, my dignity, my anything is what, and my pride is something that I have going for me. That's the entire character designed for the female lead. And while Gorya definitely embodies that, I feel like the entire bar scene was handled very poorly. It was handled very comically to the point that and there was this misplaced misplaced moment between her and the customer, of him sort of like giving him advice and then it turns into something else that's different. I feel like that scene could have focused more on showing us Gorya's resolve in solving this for her family and why she agreed to do it. And it could have been treated in a way that if there was a moment to inject social commentary, this was the moment to do it. Like why people go through these jobs and odd jobs and like subject themselves to these kinds of situations. Even if it's difficult, even if they're prone to endangering themselves or anything like that. And that was a moment to make that kind of social commentary if the creators or the director or the producer or the writers wanted to do that, as they've been doing for the other scenes for this series, to really inject that particular message in Gorya's character and what Gorya was experiencing at the time. But instead, I feel like that entire scene was treated very comically. And I don't know, maybe it's just me, and I understand that it could have been like, you know, a nice cheeky way to like for us to not foreshadow what's going to happen in the end of the episode, which I'll be talking more about again later. But yeah, I feel like the reason after that, and especially the impact that it has in the story at the end of this particular episode, there's a certain disconnect in terms of the emotion that was happening for that moment. I was kind of glad how after that there was really more of just there was really more of this discussion about with MJ and Kavin and trying to like deal with the situation, confronting Gorya and Thyme about that Gorya likes Ren. So there's this certain straightforwardness in that particular scene afterwards that I really, really like, that never really happened in the other versions. So I like how Kavin was really pushing it to their face that we don't want any conflicts when it comes to this friendship. If like, can you like, do you actually like, do the two of you know what you're actually doing, anything like that? And then after that, they treated it a little bit more seriously with Kavin and MJ, really trying to talk to Thyme about how difficult the situation is, which is present in the other versions. So I like that, I like the build up in terms of these scenes moving forward, and then the whole confrontation with Kaning where they were talking to her and she just spat back the words that Kavin told her in the earlier episodes about having faith in your friend and being there for your friend and taking care of your friend, but not in a manner that is backhanded. I like how those scenes were handled, and that was the type of tone that I was expecting for the scene earlier when Thyme and Gorya got stuck. It's that continuous flow of just serious feelings and emotions that is weaved into the story that is not just all comedy, that is not just all rom-com, if you get what I mean. So yeah, so I like the tone of those scenes. And then we enter the part where Thyme goes to Gorya's house, and this, like, they share a meal, and I always love this scene for all the versions, but I like how they handle the scene in particular, because that's when you see the differences in terms of like how lonely the character of the male lead is, and especially for Thyme in this case. I quite find the scene where they were like playing for the last pork, as that scene was literally from Notting Hill. If you've seen that film starring Julia Roberts and Hugh Grant, there was a scene there where they were talking about the last brownie, and it's a really good brownie, and that you have to share your saddest story so that you would be able to get the last brownie. And then Julia Roberts' character talks about how her life as a celebrity, it's all glam and everything like that, but it's actually lonely. And it's that exact same scene, but the difference here is that Thyme was oblivious to the fact that his story was actually pretty sad. And it was kind of nice because they didn't give him the last piece, but rather they divided it among them. And it was sort of like not to show that they're pitying him in that particular situation, but it was them trying to, like, share this moment with him. And I really like that part. It was just kind of funny because it was definitely a Notting Hill moment. So yeah. After that, I like how the whole scene with Gorya and Thyme played out when Thyme was talking about, the thing that he did back when they were younger, like him and Ren when they were younger, and he destroyed the toy that Ren absolutely loved. But then at the end of it, Ren wasn't mad, and it's still the same childish, jerky thing that he does to him. And it was a nice parallel to the discussion that MJ, Kevin, Gorya, and also Thyme was having in the cafeteria earlier on about, playing around with a doll. It's just that I love Kevin's line where he said that in this situation, it's a person and not a doll, and you wouldn't want to get caught between the conflict that's going to happen, if ever. So I absolutely love that part. And it definitely makes a lot more, like, it's definitely a lot more dramatic and emotional as compared to the Yori Dango version, where that one was just funny with the apple thing. But it's the same thing that shows us the weight of the friendship that happened, that Ren and Thyme has. And I like how, we're finally putting those contexts into play, especially with how the love story is playing out. What's interesting to me is that in the Japanese version, when Domyoji told Chukushi about, the thing, like how he's acting like a jerk towards Rui, he also gave her, like, his approval in a way that he's supporting who she is as a person. And I feel like, I'm not sure if it's lacking for Thailand so far, or they really don't want to go to that direction. But I love the words of affirmation that usually Domyoji gives Makino throughout the entire series. And for this one, I feel like it would be the other way around, with Gorya being the one doing that for Thyme's character, hopefully in the future. But so far, I like that little talk that they had. I like how the back and forth and the casualness is happening to them, like how they're starting to warm up to each other. I like those scenes. And I feel like I just wish that if they are going to put in the cheesy moments, like the cheesy lines about injecting some lessons here and there about something, they could do it in those moments and not make it like feel weird, rather than doing it in moments where they would inject something comedic to, I don't know. But yeah, I feel like so far, not exact, like, I like the playfulness in the first part of the series, in the first part of the episode rather, but there was too much comedy in there that could have been played off a little more, like toned down a little bit more. The latter part of the episode is what I liked. And yeah, they're starting to really inject in clues as to what Hana's character is really going to be on about. If you know the past versions, you would probably see the thing coming, but if not, then I would just hold off first and not really talk more about it in this video. You have to see it for yourself. But yeah, I mean, other than that, then we end the episode with the pictures of Gorya in the bar in the school, and then Thyme sees it and never really get a reaction, and that much of a reaction from him. The preview isn't exactly that telling yet as to what's going to happen, but overall I think the impact of the final episode would have made much more sense if the bar scene again wasn't delivered like that, because I feel like it would also play in terms of the emotions of Gorya during that particular moment, what was happening, and very similar to, for example, in the other versions, where the reason why Tsukushi was just drawn in the first place was because it was someone who kind of, like, I like the difference that they did. It has a lot more weight in terms of why she's doing what she's doing, but at the same time, I just feel like the scene earlier on could have been handled a lot better. I like how they made it seem like, you know, she was doing this bad job just because, and something like that. Been a lot better as compared to like the other versions. Again, if they didn't play it off as something that's comedic in the first place, and really showed us the struggle that Gorya had to put up with during that situation, and how that's so against her personality, but she still went for it because she needs it. And yeah, I just feel like that was my main issue with the episode. But so far, in terms of the emotional moments, the way they're building up Gorya and Thyme, I've been absolutely loving the scene so far. I'm looking forward to the next episode because it seems like we're finally gonna get more for Kevin's character. I'm pretty excited where they're going to take his arc, since from what I know from the other versions of his character in the past, in other adaptations. So yeah, that's it for today's video. As usual, tell me down in the comments below what are your thoughts. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel and you would want to hear more from me, please hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'm gonna be seeing you soon in a new one.